Wells Fargo expects its team members to adhere to the highest possible standards of ethics and business conduct with customers, team members, vendors, stockholders, and the communities it serves, and to comply with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations that govern our businesses. This is part of the Wells Fargo Team Member Code of Ethics and Business Conduct. It is, however, not the standard that Wells Fargo has kept up for itself. The organization's behavior enabled unethical employees and afforded some the opportunity to boost their sales figures in order to incur bonuses. The 5,300 employees that were fired last year were all middlemen and low-level executives. This is to say that no one responsible for ensuring all employees follow the ethical standards put forth by the organization. This information came to light after it was proven that in 2015 the bank hired people specifically to electronically sign forged foreclosure documents. Recently, it was uncovered that Wells Fargo found 1.4 million more phony accounts that had not been accounted for in the last year after the company paid its restitution to the original customers that were party to the ghost account scheme. The findings bring the number of potentially unauthorized accounts to 3.5 million. Some steps that might help the organization to refocus their attention and win back some positive feedback are to bring in outsiders to refocus the trajectory of the organization, analyze corporate policy and its impact on employee behavior, provide an assertive and prompt response with a clear, full-throated apology that considers the audience. Going forward, the organization needs to make the CEO responsible for making these statements. Initially, the CEO was reportedly not involved and the scandal was attributed to employees. However, corporate culture, specifically an organization's ethics, are not only determined but enforced at the top. Transparency is important in all facets of an organization, but can be integral to an organization's recovery from scandal. In Wells Fargo's case, they dropped the ball on transparent communication, and eventually the organization let Jeff Stump, the president and CEO, go after he testified to Congress that the 5,100 employees that were fired were to blame and offered what many saw as a lukewarm apology. We regret and take responsibility for any instances where customers may have received a product that they did not request, read the statement, released by Wells Fargo after the incident, a sentiment that didn't seem to be in line with the situation's seriousness. At Wells Fargo, when we make mistakes, we are open about it. We take responsibility and we take action. The statement continued. However, that statement is not in line with the actions of the organization. The next CEO to be brought in was Timothy J. Sloan, who grasped the gravity of the situation the organization was facing and had this to say. As a new CEO, my immediate and highest priority is to restore trust in Wells Fargo. Our goal of building lifelong relationships with our customers and appropriately offering them additional products is still the foundation of our business model. But there was clearly something wrong, and we will make the necessary changes to fix it. While Sloan is faring better with the public, he's a 25-year veteran of the institution. Utilizing existing management is not an overly positive way to make the case for a change in an organizational direction. With new blood come new strategies. Many of the employees that were let go from Wells Fargo for unethical practices reportedly did so because of the competitive nature of the organization's policies. Had Wells Fargo fostered an environment that emphasized customer service and doing what's best for external stakeholders, the situation wouldn't have led to 3.5 million potentially fraudulent accounts. Outside help analyzes the culture to find the cracks that can be exploited unethically. If the culture represents an unreasonable expectation of its employees, then the organization must reassess the reason for the expectation. Given branch locations, economic activity in given areas, etc., it's not realistic for a set amount of new accounts to be opened in every branch nationally. The pressure put on employees to do so and the willingness of managers to ignore unethical behavior is an issue that should be addressed at the top. By reassessing the communities that Wells Fargo has decided to put branches in, the organization can get a better understanding of what a realistic target amount of accounts should be. This would place the employees in a position to provide good customer service and regain the good graces of their stakeholders. Wells Fargo did themselves no favors by initially taking a laissez-faire approach to the scandal. Many public relations professionals saw the mismanagement of the crisis as a way of letting the whole thing fizzle out. This was not the case. The best way to deal with situations that have human repercussions is to unequivocally apologize. Take the hit, make amends, and work towards a situation that rebuilds trust with stakeholders. Strong leadership, admitting mistakes, and owning up to organizational issues sends a message to stakeholders that they are important and integral to the company's future. However, When the initial scandal broke, there wasn't a focused response by John Stumpf. After the bank was ordered to pay back their customers, Wells Fargo issued a statement that read, "The ruling allows us to put the legal process behind us and to focus our resources and energy on what we do best, serving the needs of the nation's homeowners." This statement is attributed to Franklin Codell, the president of Home Lending. This was a missed opportunity for Stumpf to apologize directly to stakeholders in an effort to win back trust and establish Wells Fargo as an institution of integrity. This is a classic example of where image restoration theory could be utilized in order to take responsibility. An ongoing process of communications lets stakeholders feel like they are on the inside of an organization's machinations. Transparency should be seen as an active participation in acquiring, distributing, and creating knowledge. A process of updating and sharing stories in order to learn from others. Failure to be seen as transparent can be damaging to an organization. What is most important about transparency is that it builds social cash with stakeholders in times of prosperity that can be spent during a crisis. A lack of transparency, a total disregard for the opinions of the stakeholders, and an inability for anyone in charge to take responsibility made Wells Fargo appear to be aloof amidst a scandal. The organization was tone deaf on every level. When an organization is perceived to be the source of a scandal, mortification, bolstering, shifting blame, and immediate corrective action is what is most effective in winning back public trust, or at the very least, staving off more bad press. Part of this technique relies heavily on transparency, which Wells Fargo failed to utilize. They released a statement that was dismissive of the effects of the scandal on their stakeholders, which was not from the head of the organization. The CEO is the face of an organization. While it may be appropriate in better times for the public relations practitioner to make announcements to stakeholders, in crisis, the CEO needs to be front and center. A CEO that doesn't hide, but rolls up their sleeves and gets involved in a crisis is a CEO that will most likely weather the storm effectively. Thank you.